Welcome to the Steve Reeve Podcast with the best moments from the past week and a few things that didn't make it to air. Monday.
Years ago now, and I'm talking many, it feels like. I don't know the exact time frame, but I mocked up a fake cover for the Grand Theft Auto game. I mean, you might be able to picture the style where it's kind of the different windows, kind of almost comic book panel-y of the different images from around the game, giving you kind of an overview of what you're going to deal with. But I'd replaced many of the different photos with actual photos of cars that had driven into storefronts in Wood Buffalo. I guess I'm going to have to update it. It has happened again. And thankfully with no injury. That is the most important part, though absolutely damage has occurred. I saw the photo shared by a friend to me just yesterday. Went, oh no, it's bad, I think. I think it's bad. Despite there being no injuries, RAV4 vehicle was completely in the store. And which store is that? Well, the Ace Liquor on Real Martin Drive, just right, entrance into the Wood Buffalo neighborhood. And just a really, really bad time, I think, for all involved. I don't know what the whole story is. Of course, I think investigation is ongoing. And if anybody has information, of course, we do have details up online about it and, information about getting in touch with Wood Buffalo RCMP at the non-emergency or Crime Stoppers, etc. But, of course, as more details do come out, we'll try to keep you updated. And hopefully there's no other instances like that to speak of. Now, in the past, I'm not saying in a superstitious way it's going to happen this way, but in the past, we've seen multiple instances of this happen in short amount of time. So I'm like, a little anxious. Don't do it again. Everybody be very careful. Don't mix up the brakes. Don't mix up the gas. Stay in your parking stall as much as you possibly can. Trying to look for a little bit more information, not finding it so easily, so take it with a grain of salt. But this morning I am reading about an incident with an open house. Somebody attending the open house, obviously enjoying what they see, and then trying to move into the house without buying it. It's kind of one of the most important steps. But I guess just trying it out just to see what would happen, I can't blame somebody in this economy for trying that, but you also can blame them. Get out of the house. Come on. What I wonder what the real intention here was. Of course, if the story is completely true on face value, if there was an actual genuine attempt, like if this person thought that it would maybe just work, like maybe if they did the whole act like you belong and you'll fit in anywhere thing and just thought it would work for a house that they don't have the deed to. I don't know about that, but I have to commend the attempt. You have to say, wow, that takes something, takes a certain special something, not money, because clearly you would just buy the house if that was the case, but it does take something.
You're listening to the Steve Reeve Podcast from 100.5 Cruz FM.
Couple of stories to talk about. So one being a big re-release. Frank Zappa is going to be putting out his Apostrophe album once again with a 50th anniversary box set. It's his 6th solo album with this release, making it now a 6-disc re-release out in September. 75 tracks on it. Absolutely for the 100% super fans. And Nick Cave has been writing new music, though he says it is a bit of a struggle. He talks about the making of the album Ghost Teen. He says he's happy that it exists, but it was a painful thing to make, and describes writing music as a bleeping nightmare. That from a new interview with Mojo magazine. Although a challenge that he clearly finds a worthy one. And he says he puts it off until he can't put it off any further, but then still just manages to dive in and get to the finish line. That's just how creating art sometimes is. The niche of galleries of people who just sort of look like Adam Sandler, but are not. The ones and zeros, whatever machinery is working in the background, is desperate to show me galleries of people looking kind of like Adam Sandler, but who are very much not. And the thing is, I'm into it. I start looking through, and every single one is the exact same reaction. Oh yeah. Scroll. Oh yeah. Scroll. Yeah, kind of do. That's the entertainment value level. That's where I'm at. That's at peak entertainment. maybe I should get out of the house a little bit more. I think that's really the bottom line. But if I were Adam Sandler, I would make it my goal to get into one of these galleries and still have people question it. You know, the galleries for people who look like Adam Sandler but are not. Only he will know his secret.
Tuesday.
You're heading off on a nice tropical vacation, somewhere warm, somewhere where they've got palm trees swaying in the wind. And then you see the price that it's going to cost to order something on the flight. Maybe you're thirsty, maybe you need a drink, maybe you're worried about, that water bottle you got in the duty-free section after security being like $8, $9. It can be a little bit intense. People are saying there is a hack to going on an airplane. You cannot bring your liquids, but apparently you can bring a coconut and just drink what's in the coconut. I think I would be a little bit weirded out seeing that happen beside me on a flight, but intrigued nonetheless. How do you, with the logistics, how do you get into the coconut? How do you crack that open on a plane? And I would, of course, be ready to toss that just like you would a bottle of water that you brought as you're trying to get into security, just in case. Because I don't know, but apparently the TSA, at least down in America, will allow you to bring a full coconut, quench that thirst at a fraction of the price. And also, you're on theme for your tropical holiday. I don't know, has anybody tested it out? Is this true? Tenacious D deciding instead of just postponing their next showing on their Australian tour to just postpone, aka cancel the rest of it. This comes after a comment that occurred on Sunday night as they were doing a bit of a bit during their concert at one Australian venue, celebrating member Kyle Gass's birthday, and they gave him a cake and asked him what his wish was. And now, in hindsight, he admittedly says that it was a dangerous and terrible mistake to say the words, "Don't miss Trump next time," inciting, political violence is the whole thing. And far from, I think, the most controversial thing that they have said, but couldn't be worse on the timing. And it looks like there's some trouble when it comes to the future of creative endeavors with Tenacious D. Jack Black has put out a statement. And as well, there's an Australian senator calling for the deportation of the American band from Australia. I'm sure advertisers and venues aren't too happy about it either. Metallica's The Black Album has now reached a crazy milestone, becoming only the fourth album in history to spend 750 weeks. That's weeks on the Billboard 200 charts for albums. Huge accolade. You might have to spend a little money on something now and then, like a driving test. Then you don't want to have to, but sometimes you have to pay again and take the driving test again. I was asking, how many attempts did it take to pass your driving test earlier on the show? Got some great responses from people, and kind of similar range of some people did it the first time. A lot of people, like myself, did it the second time. A few people saying 3 times, like Ryan says, "Damn parallel parking got me the first 2 times. Damn parallel parking." I mean, it's tough. But some people saying, "What test?" I mean, if you're driving, you should know. If not, you don't need to worry about it. Joe says, once when he was 16, but twice for Class 1. Christian says, once in a car, but twice on a bike, because they must be cash cows to be milked, Kat saying, twice, but the first time, she swerved to avoid a cat in the road, and then the examiner said hitting the cat was the correct response. Kat goes on to say, I didn't go back to that licensing place for round 2. And I say, no, they're absolutely incorrect. That is not the way to do it. You don't steer into the animal. I'm sorry. That tester's a psychopath, and I'm glad that you got your license.
Wednesday.
New research indicates that smartphones have now officially surpassed TVs as the most used screen for entertainment purposes. Specifically, they just say screen time, and they don't even really bother with the computer. Which, I mean, I think it's just because we know so many people spend their 8 hours a day glued to them, if not more. And then, it's time to move on from the medium screen to the bigger and smaller screen of home for the comfort. What they found, though, is that in the United States, specifically, It's now 151 minutes on average per day on the smartphone and 147 minutes on average per day of TV consumption. Now, there's also two different terms that they use called stacking and meshing, which basically just means you're using your smartphone at the same time as you're using your TV. Stacking is unrelated content. You're just scrolling Instagram, you're just talking with friends on Messenger, you're just not doing it, you're checking out Prime Days or something like that. But the other one is called meshing, and that means you're trying to add some value to the entertainment you're getting from your TV by finding related content on your phone. Blah, 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 blah. Well, then I thought, well, that's just America, right? That's just in the States. Well, they also did a bunch of different countries. China, for instance, is way more smartphone savvy. They do about an average of 170 minutes on their phone every day, and doubling what they do for their television viewing time. I find that so, in a television generation raised by the TV in the 90s, I find it so bizarre. You watching full movies on your smartphone? Cut it out, you're better than that. Get the bigger screen on the go. Nine Inch Nails have got an interesting collaboration to help mark the 30th anniversary of their album, The Downward Spiral. They've got a collection of Doc Martens coming out. Well, 3 different boots. Of course, the classic and well-known, world-famous Doc Marten boot. And then 1 pair of shoes in the designer line as well. From this album that was Grammy-nominated, though not Grammy-winning. And then, of course, as well, inspired by live performances, they are going to be on sale, releasing as of this Friday. But, of course, there's a sign-up sheet. Not a pre-order, but a sign-up sheet, so it still might be very hard to get your hands on some for superfans. Pixies, well, specifically Frank Black of the Pixies, he did some solo work, and he's announced a tour to celebrate the 30th anniversary reissue of his Teenager of the Year album from way back when. It's North American tour. If you're curious about when and where, well, he's got it all listed up on his social media, but I'll give you a hint. Nowhere too close to here. Geezer Butler also in the news, just expressing love from the new metal musical explosion of the mid to late 90s, saying he was a fan of bands like Slipknot and etc., saying it was amazing to see what those new bands were doing then, and each one had a different version of metal. That was one of the cool things about the rise of new metal. The legendary Black Sabbath bassist giving some love, though admittedly, like 30, 40 years late. I'm sure those bands would have appreciated the love in the moment.
Hey Alexa, play the Steve Reeve podcast.
Have you been to summer camp? Have you experienced that when you were growing up? Seeing it in movies and kids' TV shows literally all the time. Susan said she didn't go, but always wanted to, but then she did send both of her kids for years, and they loved every minute. So kind of wish fulfillment for the next generation, which I love to see. That's fantastic. Anna is saying that she'd always dreamed of going after watching Mary-Kate and Ashley eating sloppy joes in a mess hall. And never did go, but closest was a weekend at Brownies camp. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. I had a weekend of camp life, and it did not fully scratch the itch. I wanted more. Ashley saying that she was back home, New Zealand, went to summer camp pretty much every year, well, school camp, and her dad even was chaperone a few times, favorite time of the year, and then the tradition was to come back from the previous year, tell the next grade that it was haunted, and that strange and mysterious things were soon to happen when they arrived. I love that.
Thursday.
A kid was asking me for a cigarette yesterday. I mean, I use kid because, you know, as I'm almost 40, anybody like under 30 feels like one at this point in my life, but not really a kid. Just young adults asked me for a cigarette while I was filling up the car. Great place and time to ask somebody for a cigarette, right? But I told him no, because I don't smoke cigarettes, thinking that would be that. He keeps on, though. It's okay, I'm over 18. Trying to, say it wouldn't be irresponsible or add up to bootlegging for a minor if I were to share a cigarette. Suspicious. The more you have to tell me that you're not something, the more I think you are. But still, I just don't smoke, so I say as much. He then tells me he has tattoos. So he's definitely old enough to smoke, right? Just not old enough to know what no means, I guess. I get it. He was just trying to wordsmith his way to what he wanted in case I was just deciding not to, but Speechcraft, it doesn't usually work that well on me. I'm definitely not budging on my cigarette distribution policy of no, because again, I'd have to actually go buy some in the first place. Reminded me of an absolutely underrated joke from the show Community from, I'd say about like 10 years ago at this point.
Kiss me.
What?
I'll explain later.
No.
I'll explain later.
Explanation isn't the issue.
So to the kid looking for the cigarette and just continuing to talk to me about it after getting several, not gonna happen. The explanation isn't the issue. All right, go away now. The Osbournes, the family, the podcast as well, was the site of a discussion about Britney Spears and her social media posts of late, in which the man himself, Ozzy, said that he's fed up with seeing, in his words, poor old Britney Spears on YouTube every bleeping day. It's sad, very sad, talking about some of the weird dancing videos that we've seen of late. Sharon chimes in saying, poor little thing. Jack says, very sad indeed. Britney has responded, basically just saying to the entire family, kindly bleep off. I got a pretty quick solution to anybody not wanting to see just about any content that they encounter on the internet. Stop looking at it. Okay, glad we cleared that up. In other music news, Foo Fighters unfortunately had to respond to a cancellation mid-concert. It was due to weather. They had to stop a show in Queens, the first of two at the Citi Field Stadium, just last night, and it was a usual 20-song or so set list that was only able to reach about 13 songs. Not even quite 13, because once they started going into Everlong, they only were able to play the intro before they officially got the word that they had to cut the show. They put out the statement saying, hey, it was a fantastic crowd. They were so disappointed, but safety of fans, crew, and everyone working at the stadium comes first. So they had no choice but to call it a night, and they're very grateful they have a second chance to play again. Not tonight, but tomorrow night. Hopefully the weather cooperates.
Thanks for listening to the Steve Reeve Podcast from 100.5 Cruz FM.
I am incredibly itchy today. I even picked up some of that afterbite with the X-Tech, which leaves the X impression on the mosquito bites that you press it into. Just like, you remember back in school? Back in the day, maybe you still do it to this day, but you do the X with your fingernail. For some reason it works. I don't know what the science is, but it does. It makes the itch go away for a little bit longer. But the afterbite did work, but I'm so itchy. There's just too many bites on my body to be able to even handle. I had my run-in with mosquitoes and skin-chomping flies yesterday in the waterways area, and it was just a false sense of security. Got out of the vehicle, was hanging out, talking for a moment, and not really that many bugs around at all. I'm thinking, well, surprising. It's a hot summer day. We're near the water. Maybe lucked out. No, we took like 2 steps into the trail and got swarmed, completely swarmed. And I grew up here. I grew up in waterways even. I should know better than that. I know as soon as you get close to the water, disturb the grass, then they come out in force. And so I'm covered in bug bites today. But, the problem is, what I really think the problem here is, it's not so much that I made a mistake, it's just that those mosquitoes, they don't know what's good for them yet, you know what? So you can suck blood.
Big whoop, wanna fight about it?
I feel like I'm sweating, just steam coming out of my pores. So, what better day to enjoy some It's So Hot jokes? So I say it's so hot, and then you say, how hot is it? And it really only works if you do it. I know you might be around people at work. You're in your car, maybe with friends, family, whatever. You just do it. It's so hot. How hot is it? It's so hot. I just saw a chicken lay an omelet. It's so hot. How hot is it? I just saw a couple of fire hydrants fighting over a dog. It's so hot. I just saw 2 hobbits throw a ring in my backyard. It's so hot. It's so hot, the horns are drooping on the buffalo statue downtown. No longer pointing up. It's really, really going to be sweaty today, so do what you can to stay out of it as much as possible. And if you have better, which that's not really saying much, punchlines for the It's So Hot joke, share those with me. Let me know.
Friday.
My place has turned into a nudist colony. What I mean by that is it's been hot. It's been so hot. No need for clothing whatsoever. No, not going to happen. Not going to do it. I've been walking around just, in underwear or less, just to beat the heat a little bit. And we do have, an AC unit. It's helping. But it's certainly not getting all the way. I suspect some other places, some other households might have also turned into a bit of a nudist colony just out of survival. Unless you have central air, that is. It's just been so hot. And of course smoky, which means that the windows are closed, but my goodness, so are the blinds as well. Because especially at night, that you get that light differential. Lighter inside, darker outside means it's a fishbowl you can see right in there. And we're trying to avoid scandalizing the neighbors as much as possible. Get a fan blowing on the inside, at least circulate some of that hot, sweaty air a little bit. Ugh. But hey, gets you to feel comfortable in your skin, that's for sure. There's a lot of broadcasters, a lot of radio stations in the world. I think largely in the UK is where I saw the biggest grouping that I could find anyway on the internet off the air, completely off the air due to this global Windows IT outage that is affecting a lot of different systems and a lot of different industries and institutions. Doesn't seem to be affecting us too much, so we can be thankful for that. In other headlines, Damon Albarn at odds with a policy from Bob Dylan and his live concerts. There's a phone ban at Dylan's gigs. Basically, you gotta submit your phone before you even get in some cases. But there's also the other school of thought. Damon Albarn of Blur saying that people won't want to be on their phone if you're engaging with them correctly. I'd say there's a lot of truth to that, but not in every case. Some people are still gonna just grab that phone with the addiction to the screen that they've got. Hey, I'm guilty about it too sometimes. And they're gonna scroll some stuff in the middle of a concert. I've seen it happen. Meanwhile, Rob Halford of Judas Priest says that his cancer is in remission still. He was first diagnosed in 2020 with the illness, and he says that staying optimistic is the most important thing, and wants to stay open with people in his life as well as fans of him and his career. After 4 years of being diagnosed with cancer, he shared with different institutions, different organizations, that he is feeling very good about things. He had to have a surgery that removed his prostate. He had meds and follow-up treatment and more, and even radiation treatment. He says you do what you gotta do. Weird Al is back at it again, and I don't mean with another gigantic biopic with Daniel Radcliffe playing him in an absurdist fashion. I'm talking about another polka song. He has put out 14, including this brand new one, polka singles in his illustrious and weird career, and a great number of them have been these pop polka medleys, and that's exactly what he has brought to the table one more time, and it's called Polka Mania. We shared it on our social media. You can find it at Community Cruise Facebook, of course, at 100.5 Cruz FM on Twitter X. Here's a taste. That's all I'm going to give you, though. You got to see the rest in the actual music video, which switches between a bunch of different songs over the last couple of decades, as well as different animation styles, which just makes it absolutely charming, including Puppet Weird Al, which might just be my favorite.
Transmission over. Want more Steve? New podcast episodes happen every Friday, or just tune into the Steve Reeve Show. Weekday mornings starting at 5:30 a.m. on 100.5 Cruz FM.